Anyway, Trump sends military to enforce border security. This is getting serious. Check out the tank that they sent over to the border. I don't know if they sent more than one. Check it out, though.
Trump administration's historic efforts to curb border crossings. There's massive military strikers being deployed, and there are more on the way. Brooke Taylor is live in El Paso, Texas. She's got a look at how these armored vehicles are being used in this effort. Hi, Brooke. Good morning.
Hi, Dana. Well, locals were snapping away on their cell phones when they saw these strikers on the highway being deployed to the border, as you can imagine, because nothing like this has been seen out here in over a decade. So in the El Paso sector right now, there's 2 of these strikers stationed out here. And we're told the DOD plans to add about 6 to 8 more in other areas across the border just in the next few weeks. So Fox got this exclusive first look inside one of these strikers. We want to show you this video here. These 8-wheeled armor vehicles. They are positioned to give a bird's eye view over the border. This one that we got to look at overlooks the Juarez, Mexico area, a major smuggling corridor known for its high number of gotaways, illegal migrants who manage to escape Border Patrol agents. Strikers could be armed with cannons or machine guns to fight enemies. You're taking a look at video from 2019 of soldiers training in Germany, but the strikers at the border right here, they are not equipped with these weapons. Instead, they are being used for surveillance.
So one of the main things that it provides is the surveillance capability with it. It could see up to 2 miles, like with the infrared. Once anything pops up, we just call Border Patrol and then they roll up on us. And also it's just, if you look at it, it's just a big deterrent for anybody.
I swear I thought he was gonna say, and if you look at it, it's just really, really cool. I mean, look at this thing. Like, I want one of those. I wonder how much that thing costs. Right? That thing's nice. I would love to have one of those. You don't see things that big, but in Texas, you see some pretty. I've seen some guys. I don't know. They must be military, because you'll just see in front of their house huge cars, and they're clearly military. They're bigger than Hummers. The wheels are massive, and I've seen it in front of multiple people's places. And I'm just like, what is this thing? And how does he have it? Yeah. You got to go outside of Austin for that kind of thing, though. You don't see. I like to be outside of Austin. I'm in Austin, but I like to be way outside of Austin. It's where it gets a little more red, you know? I like when it's red. I don't like this progressive place, to be honest.
This time last year, Border Patrol sources tell me there were 1,600 gotaways a day here in the El Paso sector. Well, in the last 48 hours, sources say there were 0. So I asked, why deploy these massive, expensive vehicles now when numbers are the lowest we've seen in years?
We also want to make sure those numbers don't go back up, right? So we will also look to bring in assets like this that essentially impress upon terrorist cartels and terrorist gangs that when the United States says national security cannot exist without border security, we absolutely mean it.
And Border Patrol agents tell us right now what they're hearing from the other side right now is cartels are having trouble even finding migrants to pay to get smuggled across the border, because right now no one wants to risk paying thousands and thousands of dollars just to get sent back home, Dana.
Well, Brooke, it's an important story.
Oh, that's amazing. That's good to hear. That's what it has to get to. You know, I've been covering the border since the whole Biden administration, and that was a big thing that people didn't understand, the soft-hearted people, when it came to people coming across illegally. The most compassionate thing you could do is have a very secure border, because then it stops those people, exactly what she just said. They don't want to pay the money. They don't want to potentially get sent back, so they just kind of stay where they are. And a lot of these people who do come over, when you see these massive caravans, they weren't just coming over because they felt like it. They were being told by people who were in America already. They were being told, hey, as soon as you get here, they give you this, they give you that. Yeah, we're here. They want to give us work permits. We could do this, we could do that. Man, get over here. Get over here. And that's why you'd see these massive caravans. But as you start to put this in place, as Trump has, and put up these massive vehicles, make it look militarized, as you start doing this, it's a very compassionate thing to do, because the way that you have to travel, I don't know if you guys know about the Darien Gap, but people having to get through that, people don't survive getting through that sometimes. Sometimes you get picked up and you get trafficked because you're going through there and it's so wild. It's a crazy part of the trip. And the more people you can deter from venturing into the Darien Gap, the better it is for everybody, because it's a nasty place, man. It's hellish. Yeah. Yeah. It's hearing about Tucker Carlson did an interview. I think he did it with Brett Weinstein. Not 100% sure, but they're talking about the Darien Gap and how crazy it is. And it's just jungle. You have to be led through it. Sometimes there's just, whether it's cartel or just gang or just thug types, they'll come and rob you. Maybe they'll take you. If you're a lady, maybe they'll assault you. There's just so much to it. Kids, and then you have women who are trying to take their kids through that. Sometimes it's a woman alone. It's just a terrible, terrible thing. So the more that people understand that they can't just walk into America anymore, the better off people are. Because people risking their life through the Darien Gap is just, it's crazy. And then on top of that, you talk about what Tom Homan has seen. Tom Homan talks about people being inside of shipping containers and the heat and no one making it, and people being in the back of tractor trailers, 40-foot, 53, and just not making it because of the heat. And, Tom Homan talking about a 5-year-old boy where he saw the boy and he knew this was the last moments of his life. And it's just like, less of that altogether,
Thanks for bringing it to us this morning.
So a lot of points made in that, too. Texas Congressman Tony Gonzalez with us now. And, sir, good morning to you, and thank you for your time. Based on that reporting from Brooke, I see two things happening here. You got 2,400 additional soldiers down there on the American side, and the Mexicans have dispatched 10,000 soldiers on their side of the border. That's like a pincer movement, is it not? And a lot of times these guys aren't seeing anybody on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, good morning, Bill. Thank you for having me. And you know what what President Trump is doing is working. And I go back to my military experience. This is essentially show of force. It's not just words, it's actually action. A few weeks ago, I was able to host the Vice President of the United States and the Secretary of Defense, and D&I was there as well at the border in Del Rio and Eagle Pass. And as the Secretary of Defense and I were talking about it, he was mentioning a 4-stage approach to this. So I think we're just seeing the beginning of phase 1, right? So as we roll through this, that's very important. To sustain operations, you got to make sure those numbers stay down to 0. I was also mentioning to him too, is while the numbers are down, it is going to take us years to get our lives back, because Joe Biden basically turned our lives upside down for 4 years. It's a very complicated issue, but the fact that we're using state, local, federal resources, I think is exactly the right approach to get to 0.
Yeah, you wonder at some point, maybe the story goes away. As crazy as that may sound, after, you had 1.7 million per year across the border, and now they're having a hard time finding people. I want to play a clip of you at a hearing. You're very keen on this unaccompanied minor issue for those who have crossed the border in previous years and are right now in the country. Go ahead and roll this clip, and you're doing the questioning.
1,000 came in unaccompanied during the last administration, and HHS was so overwhelmed, treated them basically like widgets on an assembly line and turned them over to unvetted sponsors. And unfortunately, some were subjected to sex trafficking, child labor, and God knows what else, but they need to be found.
I agree with you, and I think this is an area that the president, working with Congress, we're going to have to work really hard to find these children. No one else is going to advocate for them.
This is what I want to get to there. At the top of the clip, we did not hear it. She said 550,000 unaccompanied came into the country in the past administration. Here are the numbers, 4-year period, 2019 to 2023. So there's some crossover with the first Trump term. 448,000 unaccompanied transferred to HHS and released to sponsored. 31,000 released to addresses that were blank, undeliverable, or missing apartment numbers. What does that mean for those children?
I mean, they're essentially alone, and no one else is advocating for them. At the beginning of that hearing, my question was simple: where are the children? We're talking to the tune of, like you mentioned, hundreds of thousands. I'm a father of 6. I mean, there's nothing more basic than taking care of an innocent child, regardless of their legal status. This is one thing I think the administration can work with Congress to get done. It's going to be difficult, but where are the children? How do we find them? And then also another deep question is, what do you do with the children when you do find them? Are we going to deport them after they've been brought to the country illegally, sometimes against their will, as they've been exploited, if they've crawled and done through all these horrific things for them? Are we going to deport these children? I mean, these are really complex issues, but once again, as a father, any of us, we just got to, we owe it to just humanity. Find these children, where, make sure that they're not being exploited on a daily basis.
For the most vulnerable.
31,000. What do you say? Yeah, the Biden administration, they took part, to put it lighter than what you said, but yeah, you're 100% right. They took part in that, and who knows who those children went to. It's crazy. That's just crazy. 31,000. And not to mention, they're talking about, they had this other statistic there, the 448,000, even still released to sponsors. There's been so many times, and there's been so many times. Yeah, no problem. There's been so many times where these sponsors that they're released to aren't actually connected to them by blood, right? That's why it says sponsors. That's why it doesn't say parents. That's why it doesn't say relatives. That's why it doesn't say aunts. There's a reason for that. You don't know who you're releasing them to. You have no idea. I'm telling you, man, I've talked about it before on both channels. The wanting to virtue signal and to be inclusive and open to the point of destruction. That's what you were seeing from the past administration. They were doing it until it was to a destructive nature. They kept on just being so open until they were hurting women in women's sports. They just kept being so open until you're doing things like this, and now you have crazy numbers like this. They just keep doing it, and it goes from being open-hearted and compassionate to sinister. Because this is sinister. These numbers that you're seeing on the screen. I don't get it. It's crazy. I don't know when that's going to stop. It's like this, it's like a combination of virtue signaling and maybe buying their own BS in terms of what they're trying to do as people and be seen as the kind people. I don't know. And then it's the same thing. The same thing you're seeing here is the same thing you're seeing with USAID and all this money going everywhere. And it just, the only place that they don't have this outlook where they're trying to be really good to people is with American citizens. It's always for other people. It's such a travesty going on. The name Democrat is not bad in itself, but the people who are in it and this weird ideology that they've adopted, that needs to be gone. There needs to be a new crop of them. There should be some kind of mechanism that steps in and says, oh, okay, all you have to go. This is not good anymore. Let's bring in some normal people, some classic liberal types, and get them in here instead, because you guys have become some kind of weird cult, Here, let's listen to the rest of this.
Complex issues, but once again, as a father, any of us, we just gotta, we owe it to just humanity. Find these children, where make sure that they're not being exploited on a daily basis.
For the most vulnerable too, and you have to think about human trafficking when we talk about this. Put the graphic up on as we say thank you to to Tony Gonzalez here. This is February unaccompanied minors in the month of February alone. Okay, under the Biden team, 12,000, 10,000. 10,350. In February of this year, 814. That has dropped considerably. It needs to get at zero. We've got more work to do. Sir, thank you for your time. Tony Gonzalez, Republican out of Texas. Thanks for coming back here.
Man, how about that? Wild. It went from these incredible vehicles all the way to that. Yeah, this needs to happen with the border. It's funny, but America can learn a thing or two from Poland's border. Poland doesn't play around with their border. No, sir. They don't care what anybody has to say about it. They got hoses. They got soldiers. They're ready to go. And nobody comes in. And it's not one of those things where it's like, I'm on the other side. They're like, yes, we know. And the other side's that way, and that's where you're going to go. They're very serious about it. What else we got going on here?